Hey guys, welcome back to RIPP Superchargers and thanks for stopping by. Today's a good day because we've got a 2018 Jeep JL on the dyno as you would be driving it down the road. It is equipped with the RIPP Supercharger and it is the first time you're seeing it because it was dropped off to us by our good friends over at the 4-wheel drive shop in northern New Jersey. Now, those of you who run a Jeep like this, which is basically with all this armor on it and then these big 22-inch tires and these 22-inch rims and 38-inch tires, you're probably wondering how much horsepower they cost you. They are very heavy. These Toyo Open Countries, or these RTs rather, are very heavy tires, and these rims at 22 by 12 are also very heavy as well. They're made by Fuel. So they're costing us a little bit of power, and we'll explain that later once we make the pass, but it's not enough to really worry about it. So if you like this look, go for it because it's pretty cool. Now this Jeep is on a 2.5-inch lift on the suspension and a 1.5-inch on the body to give it this sort of like very aggressive look. And so the client needed a little bit more power once he weighted it down, and that's what we're here for. Now, this is equipped with a 3.6-liter Pentastar V6, but it is the next gen, so it's a second-gen engine, and therefore FCA or Mopar or Jeep or all those guys together basically changed the way the engine operates. So they've added a little bit more compression above the 3.6-liter JK, it's a little higher. They've made a bigger intake manifold, a larger throttle body, and they also added an EGR to the system. But most importantly, and the biggest change really, is the transmission. The transmission is an 8-speed ZF transmission, and it is absolutely phenomenal because it keeps the engine in the power band much more like tidy. You know, it doesn't have the gears, so it doesn't separate the 4-speed, like really separated the power and you found yourself always digging for the power. In this one, because they're so much tighter and there's 8 of them, it just keeps it where it belongs, and it just makes for a much more fluid feeling vehicle. And that's really good for us because our supercharger loves that and reacts to it and just brings more power in all the time. Now in this vehicle, he went to a 488 gear, which corrects the tire size. But again, when you put these vehicles on the dyno, they only make about 230 horsepower on a good day stock. So we're here to make a lot more. Now a RIPP Supercharger will add a lot more boost, boost to the engine, which will bring the horsepower up. And we've been able to bring it up about 200 horsepower every single time. Well, 130 on this vehicle, 140 actually. So that being said, we do have this thing strapped down on a dyno, and we could make some noise and then reconvene at the dyno and talk about what we found, okay? There's fans. Wow. Making power today. All right, so what do we got here? 263.6 horsepower at the wheels. That means that's the kind of horsepower that we're making when you're driving it down the road. Now remember, not all horsepower is measured equally, right? So a lot of times the manufacturer will advertise horsepower at the crank. So in this case, this vehicle is advertised at 280 horsepower, but the reality is that it's not really 280 horsepower. There's a certain percentage of drivetrain loss that's calculated into these vehicles. And that's accounting for accessories on the engine, for example, the transmission, this vehicle, of course, the Wranglers all have transfer cases in the middle. Then you go into that axle, which is pretty heavy, those Dana 44s, and then you go into these very heavy wheels, and that's actually the horsepower you're driving. So in reality, when we test these vehicles stock, they usually make about 220 to 230 horsepower at the rear wheel. So we're gaining here 130 horsepower at the rear wheel. Now remember, earlier we mentioned that these wheels are a little heavier, right? So being a little heavier, they're going to rob a little bit more rotating mass, that they rob a little bit more drivetrain loss, and that's actually what it's costing us. Generally, we see about 376 horsepower, just closer to 380. This vehicle is costing us a little bit more power because of the drivetrain loss. Now, if you look at here, it's a very fluid, right, power gain. There's no bumps. There's no alterations in the way the power is delivered to the vehicle. So therefore, the vehicle is going to feel like just a much larger engine. One of the questions that we get all the time is, how's it feel to drive a supercharged engine? It feels like a larger engine because it's always there. There's no waiting for the boost. There's no over the curve or under the curve or some sort of efficiency that you're waiting for. And unlike route-style superchargers, which kind of like blow their load all the way up front, this will always feel really big all the time, making it a really wonderful driving experience. Well, anyway, that's a look into the JL Supercharger kit. I hope you really like it. Remember, we're on all the Instagrams and all the Facebooks and all the things that are online, and you can catch us on our website at www.ripmods.com, or you just give us a call. We'll be glad to talk. Thanks for stopping by.